Hi, my name is Aisha Kashmiri, and this is my final project for film on Wakelet. The movie I watched was called First They Killed My Father. It is about Cambodia and the genocide that happened in Cambodia, and it is told by someone who lived through the genocide, hence A Daughter of Cambodia Returns. It was written by Angelina Jolie and Long Ung, and it was directed by Angelina Jolie. So first I have the trailer on First They Killed My Father. So First They Killed My Father was actually streamed on Netflix, and you can watch it on there. And the fact that it was streamed on Netflix is actually means a lot, just because Netflix is like one of the world's leading internet entertainment services. So the movie First They Killed My Father, it was based on the life of Long Ung, who now is a human rights activist. And basically the movie was just a adaptation of like the book that she wrote. And during like the movie, the movie is told through her eyes, and we get to see the difficulties that she faced and the difficulties that her family faced, and just everything around her and the journey around her. Yep, that's all that. And here is a picture of Angelina Jolie and Long Ung. And yep. So they both had to work very close together because like Angelina Jolie was actually taking her story and perfecting it. So it was very important that they were like together a lot. And yeah, so Angelina Jolie has a very strong connection to Cambodia because she has an adopted son from there whose name is Maddox. And so she basically wanted to film the movie in a way that would help Maddox understand his inheritance and like where he came from and all that. And yeah, so here is a picture of Angelina Jolie with her son Maddox and Lung Ung, and like it shows you how everyone was on set and they all wanted to help out. And also her son Maddox like helped research a lot, so he was like there with her throughout the process of shooting. And yeah, here is another picture from Twitter. It's her at one of the awards, and it's her speaking about how they made the film. So the cinematographer of the movie, his name was Dodd Mantel, and he wanted to make a very abstract movie, meaning he wanted to use like different colors, different ways of filming, different ways of like different shots, I guess you could say. And yeah, so some of the cinematography that was actually used in the movie was flashbacks, and flashbacks were a big part of the movie because Long had flashbacks from the beginning of the movie. So it was like even when they had started marching out of the town, which was in like the first few minutes of the movie, Long had her flashbacks about like how their life used to be. And then later on in the camp, when like I think Long's father was being pulled away, she had a flashback then too, and like it was like a darker and like a more tense flashback, but they were still there. And for me personally, the way the author used the colors had a very big impact. Like there were times in the movie where it was so tense, where I was like, okay, let me skip ahead, or like I would just feel sick to my stomach and be like, okay, like this actually happened, like someone went through this. And another very important thing, which was, if we go back up to here, was the language. So Angelina Jolie really wanted the language to be I'm probably gonna say this wrong, but the Khmer language, and like she thought that it would make it more real and like actually show the story of like how they were forced to change their language and everything. And yeah, in all the way that they filmed the movie was beautiful. Like for example, here Angelina Jolie says that she took like lessons about rice. So like in the movie she wanted everything to be accurate and everything, to be correct. So, and then they use that rice to like show how time had changed. Like they didn't say, a couple of months later, or they never brought up how much time had gone by. So they use like different stuff in the movie to figure out how much time had actually gone by. And so the movie in all talks about the Cambodian genocide, and which was basically when Khmer Rouge was like a, don't want to say a militia, but like they're like a part of like, they were, okay, so they were under a party leader, and he wanted to like centralize Cambodia and more or less make it like a communist country. And in doing so, they, moved millions of people out of their houses, killed millions of people, and they did this for about 3 years. And that ended up killing about like a fourth of the country's population. And in the end, like, it ended because Vietnam came in and like helped everyone out. And which I find really ironic, because in the movie from the beginning, like, everyone's taught that the Vietnamese are the bad people and you've got to be careful with the Vietnamese. But what actually happened was the Vietnamese actually came in and helped them out and, in a sense, saved them, I guess you'd say. My personal response. So, when I first started watching the movie and I realized it was about genocide, the first thing my mind went to was the Holocaust. So, the way I relate to it is because as Long and her neighbors like started walking, there were a bunch of aerial shots that just show thousands of people just walking straight for days. And to me, that just really reminded me of the Holocaust. And my personal experience with this was, so I was first in middle school when I learned about the Holocaust. And I remember my social studies teacher, my history teacher, Mr. Hall. He was amazing. He was one that taught us about the Holocaust. And like, we had like, for a good amount of a semester, we learned about the Holocaust. And I guess as I was learning about it, I didn't like as a like sixth grader, I didn't really like take into context like how serious or how big of a thing it was. But so towards the end of the year, it was like exam time, and usually if you finish your exam, you can just go to like a different classroom and watch a movie or something. So I was like, I want to go to Mr. Hall's class, like he's really cool, and like my teacher let me go to Mr. Hall's class. And Mr. Hall decided he wanted to play the movie The Boy in the Striped Pajama. So here's the trailer for it, and the movie is basically told through the eyes of a little boy too. And in the movie, basically there's a Jewish boy who's in the camp, and another boy, Bruno, whose dad is in charge of the camp, whose dad is Nazi. And the whole movie, like, you see like there's a barbed wire and a fence, but they become friends. And I think it was just an amazing movie. And so the reason this connects is because towards the end of the movie, there's a scene where both boys died in the gas chambers because the little Nazi boy wanted to actually see like how life inside the camp was. Because I believe that like as a little kid, he didn't know what was going on. He just didn't know what was happening. And yeah, and I remember seeing that scene and like crying and being really upset. And like, I was in sixth grade, so there was a reason for me to be really upset. And yeah, it just made me realize that there have just been genocides all over the world, and the world is very, very cruel. And it just made me very thankful for like how I've been able to live, I guess you could say. Yeah, and my reflective response towards the movie was, I think that the people of Cambodia were treated horribly. Like, we saw how, like, if you were educated, you were a target. If you were working for the government, you were a target. Like, Long's dad, like, really pretended that, like, he didn't know. I think the language they spoke was German, I want to say, or Russian. I believe it was Russian. And he just pretended like he didn't know the language, you know? He was just some ordinary shipper at the dock. Another thing that I saw in the movie was how everyone was malnourished. Like, a lot of people were starving, and like, you could see, like, as moving along, you could see like how they gave the kids some rice first, then the kids went and ate, and then they went back to work, and how they gave the parents food next, and it was just the same little like rice, I think. At one point it was probably oats. And yeah, Another thing I noticed in the movie was the dominant male role. Like when Lone's dad was still there, like the mom was okay. Like he was like the mom's rock, I guess. And like as soon as her dad was like taken to go get killed, everyone knew it was happening because it happened to other people around them too. And like Lone's mom knew that like maybe she was next and her kids were next. So she went ahead and like gave them all like a little symbolic thing. And she told them to go to working camps and like that's how they're gonna stay alive. And like with the male dominance, and also when the dad was getting taken away, like he told the little brother, he was like, hey, like you're in charge now, like take care of your mom and your sisters. And I believe Long and her sister were older than him, but like it's about the male like role, I guess. And I'm Pakistani, so like male dominance is like something that's like very big in our culture, I guess. And like my dad like has been providing for everyone for years, and like he's more or less in charge, I guess you could say. And like your gender does, determine a lot in the Pakistani culture, but it isn't like so much in American culture. So it's like a little balance in between. And finally, the movie was actually nominated 25 times. That's a lot for like an international movie. But it only won 9 awards. And some of like the most important wins was for the National Board of Review, like in America. It won the Freedom of Expression Award, which is I think a very, very big victory because there's like a lot of documentaries being made. But like hers won. And another major one was for the Foreign Language Film of the Year and at the Hollywood Film Awards. And I think the second one was just a little bit more bigger. But yeah, that is my review of my movie, First They Killed My Father. And yeah.